All right, first things, without further ado, I suppose, introduce myself. My name's Chris Chevelle. I work for TB Davies. We're here today really just to discuss working at height. I've worked for TB Davies now for 21 years. I'm a plasma trainer. I'm also a ladder association trainer. Although there's been a lot of changes in the last couple of months, literally, certainly with introduction of new standards, new methods of manufacturing ladders, all of which really relate back to working at height, because the object of the changes, I suppose, is to try and make ladders safer, better, stronger, more user-friendly, and an easier method of selecting the product. Because at the moment, we've got several different standards, several different grades of ladders. And I go onto sites quite frequently, and much to my absolute amazement, you can go onto some very large sites and you can find some totally unsuitable bits of equipment. So domestic products being used where they shouldn't be, incorrect standards of ladders, poor inspection of products. But it's not just ladders, it's pretty much all forms of what we call temporary or portable access equipment. So we're going to have a quick look at the three things we're going to be focusing on today, and all of them really, it's a triple-pronged attack by the industry, the ladder manufacturing and suppliers industry, to ensure or to make sure that we can do things to make your jobs easier and make working at height a lot safer. So there's been some new standards. There's been some absolutely created brand spanking new standards. There are a couple actually in the process of being created as we speak, all of which their primary focus of the new standards is to make ladders and access equipment safer, more user-friendly, and easier to make your selection of the best product most suitable and fit for purpose for the job you've actually got in hand. And then we'll look at, briefly at the end, we're going to look at some guidance for use and training. There's going to be some additional information that, as a manufacturer, we would be obliged to put onto equipment. So what has changed? So what is new? Well, for a start, we got rid of all our British standards. So that's nice and easy. So no longer do we have BS 2037, Part 1 and Part 2, Class 1 and Class 2. They're gone, they're abolished. So what is the new standard? Well, it's the M131. So it's the same standard as we've already got, but it's been revised and improved. So all ladders, all step ladders, will have a duty rating on them of 150 kilos. In old money, that's 23.5 stone. Under the old standard, it was 175 kilos. So why is this new standard then going to be so great? Well, it's going to make selection of product a lot easier than it was before. You had, inside of each standard, you basically had 3 subcategories. So domestic, industrial, trade. There's now only going to be 2 grades. There's going to be professional and non-professional. So from a selection point of view, you got 1 standard, 2 grades, can't get any easier than that. On top of that, obviously, we're going to do a whole raft of things to actually make the ladders physically more safe and more user-friendly in the first place. So what are we actually changing under EM1312, as we're calling it? Making the ladders more stronger and more stable. The biggest change actually is going to be the dimensional change. All ladders over the height of 3 meters will now have to have some kind of stabilizing device built into the base. Steps to a certain degree are actually going to have to comply as well. So they're going to need to get wider as well, as are combination ladders, as are a lot of these telescopic ladders. All of these products are now going to come under EM131, so therefore all of them are going to have to comply with these new test standards. The biggest test, the one there on this end, is the increased test strength requirements, which essentially means we have to simulate somebody walking up and down a step or ladder 50,000 times for every single product. Any more questions just whilst we... Yes, sir.
Just a very quick one. Is there any indication that the construction industry, as a result of these standards, may be more welcoming to the use of ladders on sites? Because, in my view, sometimes walking down corridors on sites full of podiums and towers and the damage they cause, the obstructions they cause for exiting the building if there was an emergency and things like that. Quite often, common sense would say a ladder would be a better option, but there is just this psychology that says do not have a ladder on site. Is this going to improve things, you think?
Well, we would hope as an industry that obviously construction is going to be more willing to look at steps and ladders for all the same reasons as you listed, really. Podiums are large, they're cumbersome, they're bulky. Podiums are basically a mini scaffolds. They still need to be put together correctly. They also need to have their casters, brakes and locks whilst they're being worked from or on. And more common than I see it, it's one, maybe two of them might be brakes and locks and the other two are just there so you can pull yourself along on the trunking. So they've even come to the state of fitting anti-surf packs to them to try and eliminate this, but it doesn't necessarily eliminate it altogether. So as an industry, we would hope with the changes in the new standards that steps and ladders would go from being the, let's say, neglected piece of access equipment to being more popular on site purely for those reasons you listed. You know, they are quick, they're easy, they're simple to use. With the additional, improvements EN131 is going to make to the product, it's going to just naturally make it more user-friendly and safer. The associated standards sort of work along with that. So, for example, PAS 250 podiums, as everybody probably knows, have now, or maybe not know, has now become BS 8620. I can't put it more succinctly than it is on the screen, so I'm just going to read it as it is. Platform with one working platform with side protection for use by one person with a maximum working platform height of less than 2.5 meters. That is a podium or a low-level working platform. Some of the changes that had to be introduced as part of PAS 250 and then it's now progressed to become a brand spanking new British standard was all around the guardrail area. Prior to the British standard, you could make a guardrail that was about 800 if you wanted to, maybe put a centre post, maybe put a mid-rail in it if you wanted to, maybe not. Obviously now under the new British standard, they all have to be made the same to conform to that standard. So you're not going to have a gap greater than 470 mil between your mid-rail and your platform, and again between your platform and the top rail, and the top rail can't be any less than 950 millimetres to act as a compliant guardrail. Other than that, there wasn't a great deal they had to change. Sometimes you'll see these now without wheels on the bottom. They stick on base plates, anti-surf packs, to stop people actually just using them as a great big roller skate on site to do their job. I see some guys smiling, they must know it happens. But if you stick a couple of base plates on at the front here, it reduces the likelihood that it's going to be used as a great big skateboard on site. So again, a nice new British standard, all focused around safety, all focused around the end user being as safe as they possibly can whilst they're using that product. Roof ladders. I've been in the industry, as I say, for 20 odd years. And when I joined it 20 odd years ago, I couldn't believe that there was no British standard for a roof ladder. But it's likely to come in and be a full standard by the end of the year, which will be, by the end of middle of next year, which will be BS 8634. And it's going to pay particular attention on personal fall protection. Now, as an industry, we always know collective protection must take precedence over personal protection. It's common sense. But it's very difficult to fit a guardrail system to a roof ladder and still make it practical to be able to actually physically get it onto the roof in the first place. So as we've already asked, really, can I continue to use my existing ladders? Yeah, of course you can. As I said, no standard can be applied retrospectively. So anything equipment you've already got on site, provided it's being inspected and maintained in the manner in which it was intended to be used, so still fit for purpose, it's still a perfectly acceptable reason to carry on using it. So what I've got to finish with really is just to say we're aspiring to make a reality the strap line right at the very top of that slide. We are trying to make working at height as safe as standing on solid ground. That's TB Davies' aspiration, and all we're trying to do by improving these new standards, focusing on training and making sure people understand how to use the equipment is try to make that aspiration a reality. It's as simple as that. So thank you very much for your time, and be safe and enjoy the rest of your day.